Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Hoya carnosa, Crimson Princess. I'm going to teach you everything I know about it, including, as you can see at the moment, it's flowering. I'm going to teach you, actually it's flowering multiple times. I'm going to teach you some secrets and some techniques to help yours flower as well, and to make it look good. So let's get going. The good thing about Hoyas is they do have a bit of weight to them. The stems are quite chunky, the leaves are chunky, they all adds up and it becomes quite a heavy plant. And if you've owned any Hoyas, they're all kind of similar. They all weigh quite a bit of chunk to them, but they are very beautiful and they're very interesting. They are sort of semi-succulent as well, which means they're adaptable to watering. They are adaptable to different light conditions. They are adaptable to relatively different temperatures. They are an extremely adaptable plant, and that's probably why they're so popular. So they are quite old-fashioned, but they're making a comeback. There's so many different varieties now and cultivars available, so they are extremely popular. And this is just one particular one that is actually, I would say, possibly in the top 5. It's quite recognizable, it's quite common, and as we mentioned earlier, is the Crimson Princess. Now, there are two, actually, that are very, very similar, and they're quite often confused. It is the Crimson Princess, this one, and we also have the Crimson Queen, which is this one. The main difference between the two is the variegation, how it looks. So the Crimson Princess has variegation on the inside of the leaves with the green on the outside, and the Crimson Queen has the variegation on the outside and the green in the inside. Now, you may have just forgotten what I've just said to you. It may have just gone completely from your mind. Understandable, but there is a nice little rhyme, a nice little poem, which I'm desperately trying to remember, and I'm going to give it to you now. It is. So the Crimson Queen wears her variegation like a crown, and the Crimson Princess wears hers like a gown. So that's how you can tell. Just, you'll remember that, it will stick in your mind, and that will always, you always know which one you've got just by following that little rhyme. This plant has been mistreated badly by me, and there's multiple issues which I will be covering as we go, and you'll learn to avoid these mistakes. So let's get on with light, which also brings us to the first issue as well. So we'll cover that in this segment here. So light levels, right, what do they want? So the Princess is really adaptable. Like I mentioned earlier, it can actually deal with quite a broad range of light conditions. It can actually even have some full sun, some direct full sun, even possibly some south-facing sun as well, which is intense. Now, that doesn't work for very long because every single year I have it in a window which is south-facing, and I move it as we get to the height of summer. But it's always too late. The plant always has stress, sun stress. And there is a name which I cannot remember offhand, but I will put it here. And it's basically a reaction. So when the light becomes so intense, the leaves start to go red. Some people find, it's very common on succulents that this will happen. Some people find it really attractive and they quite like it, but it isn't really good, if you know what I mean. The plant is doing it as a stress response. It's kind of almost like a suntan, sunburn. It's trying to protect itself from further sun damage. It's not what you want the plant to be doing. You want it to be growing. You want it to be healthy. You want it to be putting out flowers. You want it to be in a good state. You don't want it to waste energy and time trying to protect itself from the sun, which is too intense. So my take on it is I don't like the intense redness, and it's not a good thing for the plant to have. So don't provide intense full sun when it's intense. So in the winter it's fine, but as soon as you move towards sort of springtime and head into the summer, get it away. And it wants something that's less intense. So you could probably get away with just maybe an hour or so of morning sun or even the evening sun, but anything during the day needs to be avoided, in my opinion. It's too bright for this plant. It will cope with it, but it's too strong. So really the ideal sort of location that you want is sort of a bright location with just a splash of sunshine. You can deal with medium light levels as well. The plant will be okay with that. It will grow slower, which might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it will grow a bit slower. But you want to avoid the sort of medium to low light levels. You're starting to head into sort of danger territory at this point. So watering is probably the main issue where people go wrong with Hoyas. Too much water and you're going to end up with nothing. Your plant's going to go, it's going to rot, it's going to be overwatered, and that's it. The leaves are going to come off and it's just going to be a mess. So if you're going to be paying attention to anything in this video, it's probably the watering issue. So they are semi-succulent. They do not need to be continuously moist or continually wet. In fact, they must never be wet for long periods of time. They need to be well watered, and then you allow them to dry out. Maybe wait a couple of days, maybe even a bit longer before you water them again. That's perfect. You can do that rinse and repeat continuously, over and over and over, and your Hoya will love you forever, and you'll have this plant for a very, very long time. That's probably the golden rule to follow. There are variables, of course there are. So you could go outside those sort of recommendations sometimes. For example, in winter, you probably can go for weeks with no water whatsoever. So it's quite dry for a very long period. That's fine. It will be okay. In the summer, you could possibly water it a little bit more. Maybe, you know, the plant's almost dried out and you water it again. That's probably okay, especially if you're growing it in a warm, bright location. The plant will consume quite a lot of water. People will recommend that you do not water your Hoyas until you see the leaves sort of shriveling, so they're curling over. Now, yeah, absolutely. If you are someone who is nervous and is worried about overwatering this plant, maybe you've lost one previously, then that's okay. Maybe as a beginner, for example, it's not really what the plant wants. So again, similar to what we talked about earlier with the light and the sun stress turning the leaves red. If they're shriveling, if the leaves are shriveling, it's dehydrated, and it's been dehydrated for quite a while. That's not good. The plant is going dormant, basically. It's not what you really want to be doing. So in the early days, yes, it's probably fine. But as you get more experience, get more confident with your plant, try not to let it get to that level. That's a bit extreme. Let's move on to temperature, humidity, and feeding. I like to cover those three things together. Temperature. So yes, it's a warm, loving houseplant. Generally speaking, if you're in your t-shirt, if you're walking around your home in a t-shirt and you're comfortable, your plant's going to be happy as well. You don't really want to go any lower than 10 degrees Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity. Now, this is something that people debate. The Hoya does like humidity, which is surprising, seeing as it does have succulent qualities to it. But it's not a plant that needs to be in a cabinet or near a humidifier or something like that. I do see people saying that they need to be, but I'm going to say it's not my experience. Anything around 50% plus is fine. It's more than fine. That is all they need. Moving on to feeding quickly. So yes, absolutely, they do like feed. Not excessive amounts. They don't need to be fed continuously. Again, I've seen people saying that you should feed them every watering, and that's just way too much for them. That's way too much. We're probably talking about once a month. That's probably enough. Okay, and that's just during the growing season as well. So if your plant's growing, if you can see a bit of growth, maybe the flowers are coming, there's some new leaves emerging, yeah, fine, keep fertilizing. Once a month, that's fine. And you can just use it every day, houseplant feed for that. Or if you want, you could go for something that's aimed for succulents. That's fine too. Pot and mix is, again, relatively straightforward. It depends where you are in the world. Some places it's still very prevalent. In the UK, it was extremely popular to buy any houseplant in peat-based pot and mix. It's not great for the environment. People are becoming more aware of this, and it's just not really, it's not good. It's not sustainable. So people have now moved into other types of growing medium, which I have as well, in terms of when I repot my plants, I don't use peat any longer. So I tend to use sort of coconut core, John Innes sort of thing, which I say this as though you know what it means, but it really depends where you're watching this. You might have no clue what I'm talking about, but coconut core is pretty well known. I definitely recommend that. I think that's a fantastic growing medium. And John Innes is basically like soil. It's very specific. Don't go in your garden, dig out soil. It's not like that. It's a very specific type of soil. And it holds water really well, but it also allows water to drain through. It's great. It's fantastic. So I mix that all up, especially with the Hoya as well, because they like a little bit of free draining. They don't, like I said, they don't become constantly saturated. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where I overwater my plant by having a really condensed potting mix that absorbs a crazy amount of water. So I like a bit of perlite in there as well, just to keep it a little bit open, just to stop too much water being absorbed. You could go and buy a succulent or cacti mix from a sort of a plant shop. That would be fine as well. You don't need big chunky materials, so you don't need to put bark in and things like that. It's too big, too thick. Avoid all that. But yeah, free draining stuff is really the goal here. The Hoya is a really interesting plant because it will flower regularly. And it's really interesting because it basically flowers in the same spot again and again and again. And what basically happens is the plant, when it gets mature, the stems become woody. So when they first start growing, when the stems first start to grow, they're very flexible. They're kind of immature, a bit juvenile. And over time, they harden up and they become a lot thicker. When it gets to that maturity, if the plant's happy, so if you pull together every single care instruction I've gone through already, in terms of the light levels, good light, watering it well, not allowing it to completely dry, and you are fertilizing it, the plant's going to be quite content, it's going to be happy. The final stage after maturity and everything being brought together is the blooms. What will happen on the existing stems, you'll get little growths called peduncles. I say little, but they're actually quite large, and they can easily be mistaken for stems, but you'll get the peduncles are forming. Some people call them spurs, and what will happen is the blooms will quickly emerge from these peduncles. It happens fast. We could be talking maybe just a month, and then before you know it, they're flowering. So it's a quite quick process. And the blooms come out, they're kind of like half moon, and they just sort of pop open, and they're just really interesting. And there's multiple little flower stalks in each one. So it's not just one flower, it's multiple small ones. There is a smell to them. Now, that is very subjective. You can ask anyone what they smell like, you'll probably get a different answer. Some people say it smells like chocolate. Other people say it smells really floral and sweet and like honey. And there's a wide range of different descriptions of the smell. For me, personally, I think it smells a little bit floral. It's not overpowering. It's not offensive. Some plants that flower indoors is just, whoa, it's too strong. And, you know, it's even difficult to sleep for some house plants when they flower. It's too much. But I find this is okay. It's not particularly crazy. It's all right. It's subtle. The important thing here is, as well, the peduncles. Like I said, they will flower from the same spot every single year. The key here is not to remove them. Okay, do not cut them off. What will happen is when the flower goes over, they will just quickly shrivel up. They will just fall off the plant very neatly. They will just fall off. And you must leave the peduncle in place, okay? Because if you do, the plant will produce a further bloom. It could be later this year, or the year that you're in, or it could be the following year. If the plant's healthy and doing well, it's quite normal to get a second lot of flowers before the year finishes, so it could be blooming again. And as the plant gets maturer and it produces more growth, you could get multiple blooms in sort of a season, which is what's happening here. I've got at least 3 growing on now. Only one's open at the moment, but there's never 2 on the way. I can see they're coming on quick. So yeah, it's really nice to see. So it's an interesting houseplant because of the blooms and how they bloom. It's very unusual. It's very different to most others. Most houseplants will bloom once, you cut them off, and that's it. It's kind of done now. And it has to grow again before it produces another one. So it's unusual for the flowers to keep coming in the same spot. It's different. But yeah, it's interesting. And finally, if you're not getting the blooms, it's probably because either the plant's too young or one of the care things I've already covered has not been fulfilled. So you need to get that right in order for the blooms to happen. 2 issues with this plant that you're probably going to come across, or you may come across. There's a high chance of you coming across it, so I want to cover those. The first one is reversion, especially on the Krimson Princess. It's normal. It's okay. So don't be too concerned. The variegation can be lost quite easily. It's happened on my plant. Like I said, I've had this about 5 years. It's lost variegation. There's multiple reasons for that. I feel like some of my care hasn't been the best in terms of the light specifically. As I said, I've damaged it, sun stress, and I think that's had an effect on the variegation over time. Some of the leaves that are coming out on some of these sections are completely green now. The nice variegation's gone. I still think it's a beautiful plant. I'm still very happy with it, but it's no longer like the queen here, my newish plant, the new queen, which is variegation on every leaf. So some of them have reverted to almost completely green, which is a little bit sad, a little bit disappointing, but it kind of looks cool as well with the mixture. It's quite nice. Do stress about this last problem, which I'm going to cover now, because I'd say it is probably the most common issue of Hoyas, and that's mealybugs. It's a pest. I don't tend to have too many pest pressures, but mealybugs is definitely a problem, and they are relentless with my Hoyas. Oh, this has just finished an infestation. In fact, I think I need to give it a never scan over, because I have a feeling I'm bound to have 1 or 2 mealybugs growing on this. And if you allow them to take hold, if they literally set up a colony and they start to breed, you're in a cycle of constantly dealing with them. You need to be observant. You need to strike when you first to stop them, to stop colonies forming. And you need to be kind of on it as well. It's not usually just treat them once and be done with it. You kind of have to keep coming back every week until they are basically gone. So that's it now. I am definitely going to finish because this is long, long, long. I thank you very much for watching today. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.